to old friends, new beginnings, and not getting poisoned.
Before this movie started, this was not my first question. You told me that you saw a longer cut of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes.
Because you saw the shirt, and I'm like, wait, what?
Well, my wife, Lori, was running John Hughes's company at the time. And yeah, I know. And we met before we even knew each other because I went to a test screening of it at Warner Brothers, I think it was. And it was a 3-hour version. And I think she checked me into the door. I just remember a really cute girl checked me into the door. We've been married 30 years now, so there you go. We owe it all to John Hughes, right?
I'm very jealous you saw that longer cut. That's the one reason why test screenings are, like, it's painful for a director sometimes, but as a movie fan, you often see versions that you're never going to see again.
Yeah. I mean, I love test screenings because I'm very trusting of audiences in general, large groups of audiences. We kind of, it graded on a curve or whatever. But, if I get like 300 people in a room who don't know me, who are, just movie fans, I'm generally going to get a pretty good sampling of what jokes work, what jokes don't work, what story parts don't work, all that kind of thing. So I trust audiences for that. So, if there's something that they don't respond to that I love, I'll go, well, let's test it again. And sometimes even 3 times. If they don't respond, I'm like, okay, take it out.
I've heard from many people that they waited really at the unfiltered version of what your movie was. It's just to like sit in a bathroom stall. Like after the movie, because people will really talk in there.
Oh no, it's
more
terrifying.
than they will in with the person,
No, cause I always have to when I always sit through the test screening with my editor, and we sit right in the middle of the audience, and then I always have to go to the bathroom because I get too keyed up. So I run to the bathroom, and then you're always at the urinal, and you hear guys coming in like, "So what'd you think?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm in here. I don't want that much honesty. It's too much for my time."
I have a bunch of questions, but actually, this is the first question is about a simple favor. Yeah. If you knew that you were going to make a sequel, would you edit the very end of the movie, which had like the little information for each character?
From the first one you're talking about. No, it's kind of a fun challenge. It's like being given like a set of rules. It's like being in an improv. You go, here's your location and your profession, and just kind of go with it. It was fun to kind of retrofit it because we never thought we were going to make a sequel to this. And so it was fun to work with the writers. Okay, I don't want to negate anything. Some people go like, it doesn't matter. You can just change it. Like, no, I want that continuity, flow from that. So it was really fun to kind of figure out what breadcrumbs we had from the first movie that we could bring forward into this. And I don't want to spoiler.
Yeah, I don't want to do spoilers.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
But we found a few things that we were really happy to pull forward.
What do you think? These are my other questions, and then we'll get back to why you're here. What do you think would surprise people to learn about being a director in Hollywood?
Well, I don't want to say it's hard because that sounds like a woe is me, but it is. It's perilous. Let's just say that because if you have a few hits, people are like, "Oh, so you're safe." It's like, no, the more hits you have, the less safe you are. Because as you get older too, it's kind of like I think they're always kind of going like, "All right, when's he gonna get out of touch with the audience?" So you're always in a panic. I guess that's the thing. I'm always in a panic in my life. There you go.
Which of your films changed the most in the editing room? Like which film, if any? Like did any go through like radical changes?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think. Maybe Last Christmas a little bit, but just because we had it was structured differently when you first meet Emilia Clarke's. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie, but Emilia Clarke's character is this. She's really kind of in a bad place in her life, and we meet her the first time. In the one that we had, Emma Thompson wrote the movie, and we meet her and she's really a mess, and she's like yelling and screaming and all this stuff. We thought it was brilliant. We just loved like, okay, we're meeting her really in a bad place, and test audiences, they just hated it, and it's a real unfair. I think it's a misogynistic thing, but it comes from women in the audience too. People are much more forgiving of a guy who's a mess than they are of a woman who's a mess. And it's really fucked up, And so we had to we had a bunch of test audiences who kept trying to test, let's see if they would warm up to it. So we had to reshoot the opening to kind of make her a little more sympathetic. And it's, I think it sucks because
I think it's bullshit.
Well, it's bullshit. It really is. But the feedback just comes in and you can't even fight the studio because they're like, everybody hates her, and it's like, So they won't go along for the ride. So anyway, so that's kind of a drag.
If you could get the financing to make anything you want tomorrow, do you have like a script that you've been desperately trying to get, or like something that you have really been trying to make?
Well, I mean, I was developing this movie at Universal for a while called Dark Army, which was kind of my tribute to the old Universal monster movies that I loved. And I thought it was really a fun character that I had, and it brought forward characters from some classic old movies that I could get the rights to. I wrote it first with all these like really famous monsters in it, and they're like, okay, you can't get the rights to this. Somebody's making this movie already. We promised this to so-and-so. So I kind of had to invent my own monsters and had a couple that were original. But the studio just kind of decided it was, they thought it was going to cost too much. I didn't. I thought there was a way to do it less expensively. But sadly, that's just sitting in my drawer.
You have a pretty nice resume. Is there something on the resume that you really wish more people had seen?
Not my first movie and not my second movie. You love all your babies, even the ugly ones. Well, I wish more people had seen Ghostbusters so I wouldn't keep getting shit about it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You directed 7 episodes of The Office, I believe.
No, I directed, I think, 19 episodes.
My bad. I wrote that. I wrote the wrong number down.
Yeah, that's all right. 7 episodes of Arrested Development.
Yeah,
or 6. No, 6 I did of that.
I wanted to specifically get into The Office for a second, because the show is so incredible and it really has gone through a resurgence through streaming.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, what is it like to edit one of those episodes when you have such gifted comedians delivering alts all the time?
Well, it's all credit to Greg Daniels, who isn't precious about all his storylines. And so, because we would do, get a lot of improv, because they're all brilliant at it. And to his credit, like, we would get in there and somebody would go off on a tangent about something, and I would build in the edit kind of like this extended version of that. But then either the episode was going to be 40 minutes long, or we knew something else had to go. And Greg was like, cool, let's jettison that storyline so we can keep Dwight dressed as the emperor, taunting Michael. Like, just starting. Remember in that Halloween episode when we were shooting it, and Rain was wearing the hood, the emperor's hood. And I was like, oh, it's funny. We started talking like him, how he overpronounces everything, the emperor. Oh, that when he talks like this and all. And I had a shot from the side, and so we just got Dwight's mouth just kind of out, and he just started tormenting Michael like he was the emperor. And we just thought it was so funny that we just let it go for a few minutes, and we lost another storyline because of it. So there you go. But
well, they're doing on Peacock, I think they do the Superfan episodes, which is like the extended versions of all the episodes.
Oh, so somebody has those edits. That was always the hard part. That's the hard part about network television. But that one in particular, you'd always have the greatest version that was like 28 minutes long, and then you had to get into like 22 minutes. So you had to start jettisoning stuff.
Jumping into why we are talking tonight. Yeah. So the first film, I think it was made for like 20 million. It made like 100 million worldwide. Mm-hmm. Not exactly what I would call like, oh my God, we need to make a sequel. Mm-hmm. What went on behind the scenes where all of a sudden, people are like, yeah, we'll finance this, or Amazon MGM.
Well, what happened, it was during the pandemic. The movie was on streaming. I think it was on Amazon at the time. And it just kind of went through the roof internationally. It just like everywhere. Suddenly we were #1 when it went on to streaming. And so there was like an interest of like, oh gosh, maybe this is worth doing another one. I've never done a sequel before. I don't normally seek them out because I think if you get away with it once, you should just walk away. As James Brown said, hit it and quit it. But this one always stuck with me. These characters really stuck with me, and there was interest floating around about it. And so we got together with Jessica Sharzer and was kind of like, well, I don't know, we have ideas. And then I was really hung up for years about wanting to make a movie in Capri based on this wedding that Giovanna Battaglia, who is the fashion editor for Vogue, French Vogue, she got married to this ultra-rich hedge fund guy, and they took over the island of Capri. And I was like, I want to do something about that. I don't know what it is. Is it a romantic comedy? Is it what? And then I was like, oh, we can make a destination wedding where all kinds of murder and mayhem take place. So that wedding, if you go into Vogue or go online and try to find pictures of that wedding, which I suggest you do because it's spectacular, where they got married, Bridesmaid is exactly where we did that, because my wife and I have been going to Capri for 30 years now, and we go out to that lighthouse, and I remembered it as being, oh, there must be grass out there. We went out to scout it. No, it's all rocks, and it just goes way down, and realized they built this whole structure out there. And so we just hired the company that did that structure and basically recreated it. We just made it pinker. They had they had grass on theirs, and theirs was much wider, but it was really fun to put that together.
That's crazy. Okay, so I am curious. Originally, Lionsgate made the first one, and it went. Obviously, Amazon made the sequel. At what point was it like Amazon saying we want to make a sequel? Like, and how did that sort of work behind the scenes in terms of coming up? Like, were you working on an idea prior to Amazon saying we might make a sequel?
Well, yeah, we had the idea with Lionsgate, really. We had been talking to Lionsgate about it, who did the first one. And we were like, maybe there might be something there. So we came up with a pitch, and then we took it out to several places. And Amazon was the one that bid the highest for it and wanted to do it the most. And so, but, there's a little bit of a bidding war, if you will, over it, which was exciting. But it was sold to Amazon. It was always going to be for streaming. So as much as you like to be in theaters, it was always going to be for streaming. So, which is, kind of nice.
I'm curious, as a director who... Is it nice to not have to worry about the opening weekend box office?
It's a different feeling. I mean, there's something's very exciting about when you have a movie going into the theaters, but it's also like, oh my God, and if it works, it's great, and if it's terrible, it's really the worst feeling in the world. So yeah, there is a little bit of like a stress off of it and going. It's also, I mean, honestly, there was times when we made the first one, I was like, maybe we should have made this for streaming, just because it's harder to get an audience to go see a movie that doesn't have tons of extra stuff in it, a big spectacle. So it's nice to know that people. Here's the thing: you feel much better now because most people have giant ass TVs or like projectors and stuff. So you go, they're not going to be watching it hopefully on their phones. Please don't watch it on your phones if you. I will say that people always go, do you make a movie differently for streaming or for TV? It's like, no, you make it exactly the same way. The only thing you change is if there's an insert that somebody has to read, you make it really big so that if they watch on their phone, they can still read it.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't make Lawrence Arabia. Now you'd have to blow it up.
I'm just thinking about all the movies now in the last few years and the insert shots.
Well, yeah, some you watch it like, wait, I can't read it.
Okay, so this movie, without going into spoilers, has a lot more death than the first one.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the choice to really, let's just say kill off a lot of people.
Well, I kind of knew we wanted a high body count just because we thought it'd be fun. I don't know. Why not? There's something to me that's very fun to watch about terrible things happening in beautiful places, and that's why, the first movie I always called suburban noir, and then this one's, Italian noir. I don't know what we call it, but, very little happens in the dark. And I just find that very fun. I think like as a filmmaker, sometimes it's easy to kind of hide in things in the shadow and all that. But like if things are happening in broad daylight or bright lighting and you're still kind of like, oh my God, there's something really challenging about that. So that was fun. And then I knew I just wanted to have a cast of characters around them because that's one of the reasons why I avoid sequels. The reason we like a movie the first time is we're discovering these characters for the first time. And we're going through the ringer with them, and we come out at the end and they have solved the problem that they came into the movie with. So a sequel, are you going to go back to that character now they've got another problem and you got to dig them out again, versus let's take them to a whole new place. Sure, they got a problem they have to solve. Stephanie's lost her confidence a little bit, but let's surround them with new people. And honestly, for me, the big thing with this was I want to take Stephanie, who's now conquered the suburban world because she went through this thing with Emily and kind of came out on top and sent her to jail. Let's take her into a whole other foreign world, literally a foreign world of rich people in a different land, and everything's opulent and dangerous and over the top. And that just felt like, okay, that gives us room to take these characters to a new place.
So this is a really stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You shot in a very, very, very sunny place.
Yeah.
How do you keep everyone from getting completely sunburned all the time?
We have a good makeup team with high-end sunblock, and also my DP is always hanging silks over everybody because you never want your actors in direct sunlight.
I'm so serious. Like if I've been on some of these bright sets, in the sun, and I'm like I walk out just red.
Yeah. Oh no. You and me both. We were both pasty guys, proudly. So I guess I know. I go from white to red to pink to white. So that's every vacation of the sun is a waste for me. No, it's I've seen movies. I remember there's a movie called what was it? Scavenger Hunt, way back in the 70s, and it was done on the cheap. And it was all shot in direct sunlight. And I mean, it was the most uncomfortable movie to watch because you watched the cast getting sunburned as the movie was going on. And I'm such a vampire. It's like, oh, no. So, no, we take good care of them.
What do you think would surprise people to learn about working with Anna and Blake as actors?
They're amazingly collaborative. They're both insanely inventive. And they're really fun to work with. I love them. I mean, that was probably, if I had to pick one of the biggest reasons why I went back to do this sequel, is because I loved working with them. We had so much fun on the first one. And they're both really creative. When I make a movie, I'm very collaborative with my actors. And like every movie I've ever done, it's like I bring them into the wardrobe, process and say like, okay, you're playing the character. I have ideas of what I want the character to look like and dress like, but I want you to be part of this. And so I let them kind of get involved and create and have these ideas that then Renee Kalfas, my amazing costume designer, takes sometimes these crazy ideas and then makes them happen. The case in point, Blake was like, I think when I show up in the bookstore, I'm out of jail, I should be wearing like a prison suit. And we were like, well, what would that be? And Renee and I got together and suddenly and she found this pattern of fabric that has these stripes on it. And then Blake was like, I'm going to wear all these like shackly jewelry. And it was so much fun. Like when, she shows up on the set finally, you're like, wow, that's what a collaboration should be. Everybody having great ideas. That's why I think I don't have a lot of patience for directors who are so controlling. I mean, look, if you're brilliant, you're brilliant. But even if you're brilliant, the actors are still playing the roles, and they are going to have something else that they'll come up with. You don't have to take the idea, but hear it and maybe try to morph it, because I was an actor for years and years, and you are as affected by your wardrobe and your surroundings as you are by the script and what's in your head. So I want to make it as pleasant for them and as set up for success as possible.
I will say that Blake in both films dresses in these incredible outfits, and Anna is dealt a pretty bad deck.
Well, Anna's funny because she's like, I'm not going to compete with that. So, this one was, because we had plans at one point, like, oh, she's going to dress in all these beautiful things too, and tried to keep up. And she was like, no, I don't want to do that. So it's great. So her doing that made it so much more fun because she is us. I mean, Stephanie is us, and she's going into this world of opulence. So sure, she's going to bring her jean shorts and she's going to bring her t-shirts, brought a couple of nice dresses, but it also, she's a Midwestern mom. And so it feels very real versus, Emily's from another planet. And you just don't know where these costumes come from. The giant hat, which I know everybody enjoyed very much, Blake found, because in Capri, there's this store called Fiore that I always buy hats at. And they have this giant ass hat in there. And she came to the set one day. She goes like, I found the greatest hat. I was like, and she showed it me. She goes like, should I wear it? And I was like, you better wear that. It's fantastic. So, and she works that hat like a pro. I tell you.
I noticed that you are in the movie as a lawyer. I don't want to say
thank you,
what character.
Yeah.
How do you pick which role you want to take in a movie like this?
Well, I've kind of stopped doing it. What happens now is if we come up with an idea or an actor doesn't show up, I'm like, because I'm always in a suit and tie when I'm on the set.
Sure. Did that happen in this, an actor didn't show up?
Yeah. So it was just like, I'll do it. I'm wearing the suit and tie. I'll just do it. and then if you watch Jackpot, my last movie, we came up with this gag for the end thing where somebody serves a copyright infringement thing to John Cena, and we wrote it on the set. So I was like, well, I'm in a suit. I guess I'm the lawyer, and I needed a haircut, so I looked like a scraggly lawyer. But yeah, so I used to try to figure out where to put myself in movies, but when you're a director, the most powerless thing you can do is step in front of the camera and act, because all you're doing all day is telling people, oh, try this, try that, or oh, you could do this better or whatever. And then you get in front of the camera, act, and all they're thinking is like, well, this fucking guy's telling me what to do. He's terrible. So
how does it work though? After you do a take like that, are you running to Video Village to watch yourself, or do you have someone that you trust watching your performance?
My producing partner, Laura Fisher, I always run over like, was that okay? She's like, okay, don't smile as much or do this. Okay, thanks. So yeah, but it's I can't watch myself.
As you know, I'm obsessed with talking about editing because it's where it all comes together.
Yes, it is.
This is how was this edit as compared to the first film's edit?
Honestly, both these films came together probably faster than most of my movies do in the editing room. I think because they're more tightly scripted. You know, all my comedies, we do a lot of improv and a lot of, kind of alternate jokes that we're always coming up with. So there's so much to sort through and so much to kind of figure out how we're going to structure it. Not structure. I mean, the structure's set by the script. We don't go in and just go nuts, but you want alternate jokes for everything. But these, since they're thrillers, that's what I like about thrillers. They have to stick pretty close to the blueprint that you have. So it was fun to put together. And then it's just, there's a number of, gags and stuff in this. So it was more trading those out and like what jokes are underperforming and let's switch those out with the test audience. But no, these are a little more fun to do, I have to say.
Did you end up with a lot of deleted scenes in the first one and the second one? Like which one? Talk a little bit about what you cut out and why.
No, I mean, honestly, these are pretty tight. There's very little that I can remember that we cut out of these. It's more just moments in the flow. It's really about pacing, So I've got other movies that, we've had so many deleted scenes from just because you stack them up. But no, we're pretty economical with this. All we're doing really is fighting for the pacing, to make sure the audience never, hopefully doesn't get bored, and the believability of the characters and just the arcs of the characters. That if an audience isn't buying into if the audience ever goes, oh, come on, or like, oh, that's dumb, or why would they do that? You've kind of lost the audience. So it's a lot of making sure you're policing the performances, and I work with such good actors. They're never going to be false, but sometimes I'll push them to go really big, or sometimes I'll pull them way back. And when I direct, I don't rehearse. So basically we get there, kind of set the shot, and then I just go for it. And the actors start doing what they naturally thought they wanted to do with it. And I, in my head, to go like, okay, I want it to be over here by the end of this. So I go up and give like little micro notes. And we'll do another take. So what happens is by the time we get the 10th take, I've gotten this whole range of performances that then I can go in and piece together, because you don't know until you get in the editing room what the flow is going to be. It's so funny. Every time I finish a movie, the studio's always really happy with the dailies. And I'll always kind of say behind the scenes is like, okay, I just hope it all adds up. Because, I've had, movies where all the dailies are fantastic and you put the first cut together, you're like, we just made the worst movie of all time, But then it's about molding, and that's what's so fun is seeing, when the editor's cut is put together, it's such a shock. There's a director I did a panel with once. She said, watching your movie for the first time is like a Gatling gun of pain. And it's true, because like every bad decision you made is just flying at you. You can't stop it, and it's happening in real time. But then you just go in and just start one scene at a time, just making it work and shaping it, and then that's all you do. I've
spoken to some directors who say after they watch their assembly cut, they're ready to just jump out the window and admit that they are the worst director that's ever helmed a movie.
You just, because after, when you wrap a movie, you just go like on a vacation for 2 weeks to kind of de-stress and all that stuff. And the editor's working on their editor's assembly. And you're just going like, I'm so relaxed right now. And I know I'm going to get just punched in the balls as soon as I get to the editing room for the first time. And but it's sometimes the assembly, you're like, okay, that was not horrendous. And other times you're just like, oh my God, what have we done?
I want to go backwards a little bit. How did the sequel story possibly change along the way? Did you did you guys sort of come up with, this is what we're going to do? And again, I want to be vague without, revealing everything.
Well, we had a script that got greenlit, actually, that was really good. It was really, really fun. But then when the writer's strike happened, we just had time to kind of sit, and just a moment of going. And I was reading a lot of feedback of people who were excited that we're making a sequel, and like people kind of put sort of, oh, we can't wait. I hope there's this and that and this and that in it, or what you could just tell what they're expecting from it. And I just realized, as good as that script was, it wasn't. I don't think it was going to be exactly what fans of the first movie wanted. And so we went in and basically kind of, with the writers, kind of reconceived Acts 2 and 3 to keep it in Capri, because it turned in kind of like this sort of chase through Italy, and it didn't give Emily enough chances to be in different wardrobe. It was more they were in disguise, so they're hiding like nuns, and so I go like, I don't think anybody wants to see Emily dressed like a nun unless it's the Corpse Bride outfit that she wears. So it was. I just wanted to up the glamour and up kind of the intrigue and the more twists and turns, and we brought the body count up too. So.
I was going to say, I think you added kills.
Oh yeah, there were several kills that got added.
So you see the shooting schedule. What day do you have circled because you can't wait to film it? And what day was like, how the F are we going to film this?
Yeah. All the wedding party stuff was just kind of like, there's just so many people, and there's so many it's just little bits and pieces that I get more freaked out by just the organization of stuff, of like, there's so many moving pieces, and you never have enough time. I mean, your schedule's always 7 days too short, and my DP's always like, we're never gonna make it, but we always do somehow. We just get through it. What I couldn't wait to shoot was the wedding scene, actually, which was one of the first scenes we shot. The logistics were scary, but I knew that we weren't doing it. There's something nice about something that's basically a montage, because you're grabbing pieces and bits versus really making sure I've got every single piece to make sure that we get this scene and every dynamic of the dialogue in this scene and the moving of the story forward. So montage is kind of fun.
How do you typically like to work in terms of the way you shoot? Like Roger Deakins has said to me that he'll shoot one camera, there's no coverage, and it's just one camera. And then you have Ridley Scott, who will shoot with sometimes 8 cameras. Right. So how do you typically like to work, and when do you change your own rules?
I'll take as many cameras as I can get. I'm a huge fan of Roger Deakins. When my DP told me that was how he works, I was like, I can never work with Roger Deakins. I can't do one camera. It's just, it is. I'm so much about lightning in a bottle. The fact that I don't rehearse. I like to cross shoot as much as I can.
So do you always work? I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, please.
Do you always work with like 3 cameras in every shot?
No, it's usually 2. It's very rare you get a third camera generally in the budgets I work on. If there's like a big sequence, the big party and there's dancing around, you'll get a third camera for that. But then you get a whole camera crew with it, and it just gets expensive. And also, too many cameras starts to feel like I'm doing a sitcom. So, but it's fun. I just like to be able to get multiple takes at the same time, so that when something happens for the first time, I've got a lot of options to show it. Because again, that's why I don't like to rehearse. It just feels like the first time something happens is the most exciting time.
Well, also, listen, I'm obviously not a director, but if I was shooting, I would always have 2 cameras because, especially with dialogue stuff with like comedy, you want to make sure you're getting it.
Well, that's cross shooting. That's in cross shooting, if you don't know what it means, is when you like if you were shooting us, I'd have a camera here shooting him, and we have a camera there shooting me. So go back to Bridesmaids, them, Kristen and Maya talking in the coffee shop and the opening thing. That was just 5 hours of cross shooting and them just like imitate a penis, like doing all these things and then making each other laugh, and so it just has such a fresh thing that when you're establishing a relationship between 2 characters, that energy comes across versus having to just say a bunch of exposition, to say how long they've known each other and what good friends they are.
Does this mean, now that you've made a sequel, does that mean I'm making a joke here, but like, are you finally going to do a Bridesmaid sequel?
No, well, that'd be up to Kristen, but I don't know. I call me crazy. I think some movies just are better off being one-offs.
No,
it doesn't mean it couldn't be great.
By the way, I agree with you. I think more movies should just be one-offs, unless you have a great idea.
That's exactly.
Or it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
But. Well, the way Hollywood is.
Well, in that, if you think about 20 years ago, everything got a sequel. It was just automatically get a sequel. And then in the last number of years, if we've noticed, a lot of sequels don't do that well. It's because audiences change. We did a whole study on this in my company, and it was audiences, the question you have to answer for an audience now is why? Why do I have to see this again? Sure, I like the first one. Why do I want to see another version of it, or what, or a continuation of it? And so, like you say, you have to have a really good answer for that. You have to have a really awesome idea. You can't just go, oh, they're back, and they're on a new adventure, unless it's awesome and it's bringing new stuff. So, I don't know. This is I'm definitely not drawn to doing a lot of sequels. That said, I'll probably do a sequel to everything else I've ever done.
So you have Elizabeth Perkins instead of Jean Smart.
Yeah.
Was there a thought to having someone look at Elizabeth Perkins and sort of say, you look a little different?
I wrote that line. I was very proud of that. No, yeah, because it was because Jean was busy, and so I've worked with Elizabeth a bunch of times. I started working with her on Weeds, and then she was in Ghostbusters in the long version, and we've just been like fast friends, and. So I wanted to, we knew Gene couldn't do it, and everybody else in the movie is from the first movie,
Sure.
and even the kids are the same kids. Fortunately, they grew up to be good actors, so I just how do we excuse this? And so I just wrote that line, hello, mother, you look different. I had work done. It's like, okay, that explains it. And then we're off.
Jake Tapper is great in this.
Yep, Tapper.
Is it tough to get like a CNN anchor, or is it sort of just like they all want to be in movies like this?
No, I mean, the funny thing is Tapper, I've always been a fan of Tapper's and I always watch his show, and he had reached out years ago because he's a big fan of Freaks and Geeks, and so we kind of had this sort of like internet friendship, and when this came up, it's just like, hey, Jake, you want to do this? And he was kind enough to do it. So
I think he adds a lot.
It's legitimacy.
100%.
There you go. Exactly.
Talk a little bit about finding the tone that you're looking for in the edit. Now, you've talked about it a little bit, but this has to manage like a few different things. It's both fun and then it can be serious. So what is that like?
Well, it's my favorite thing to do is to walk a tonal tightrope. Doing straight up comedy has gotten much harder in the last number of years because audiences, I think, for a while, and it might be changing. I mean, the Naked Gun trailer looks hilarious, and that is just a flat out comedy.
I seriously cannot wait.
I cannot wait either. But that's bringing back like comedy, straight up comedy. But people have gotten weird about it. Even when we were doing Bridesmaids, there was a lot of people who would watch the trailer, and there was a lot of hostility towards comedy trailers. Like, oh, clearly all the best jokes are in the trailer. Like, I think people got burned by comedies for a long time, and so I just like high stakes comedy that's in a genre because I love genres, and I really love thrillers, and I love genre movies just flat out. And I think the best comedy is happening in genres. All the best comedy these days is in horror movies. Megan is a comedy. Megan is a hilarious comedy. Abigail is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I love that stuff. Because it's extreme. And I love.
So you're first in line for Megan too.
Yeah, 100%. I love that movie. I thought it was so funny. And also, what I like about Megan. Let me just. A lot of horror is very nihilistic. It always kind of ends and everybody's fucked. And I like that. Like they kind of won at the end. I like horror that's kind of you win. So there you go.
There's another one coming out that Blumhouse is doing. It's not shit. Did they release the trailer yet? It's oh man, I can't remember the title, but it's like an adult version of Megan. It's like the same.
Yeah, it's in that universe. Yeah.
Soulmate. There it is. Yes. So that's another thing where I think you're gonna have a kick on.
There you go. No, but it's just fun. It's fun to make people laugh with more extreme stuff and high stakes. I don't like movies where it's about like cops, but it's a comedy, so the villain's bumbling and he's crazy. Like if somebody doesn't get killed, I don't go like, oh my god, they could get killed. That's why I used to love those movies. 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop. I remember going to see, I think it was Beverly Hills Cop. Like, oh my god, it's Eddie Murphy. This is gonna be so much fun. And hallway they execute a guy in the head, and I'm just like, oh shit. But then you realize, oh my god, it's so much. All the stakes are so high. Now I'm really worried about Eddie Murphy when he goes into the, in 48 Hours into the redneck bar or whatever. I think those kind of stakes are what you need.
I could not agree with you more. I don't want to, again, spoilers, but the end of the film teases what could be more. So is this one of these things where you could actually, are you even contemplating, if this does well, that you could be making a third?
Well, I mean, this again, it's almost like once in for a penny, in for a pound. We did a sequel. It's kind of like, well, now we've shown that we can kind of, take these characters and in a different direction or keep them going. So yeah, that whole thing came up from, we were shooting, we shot a week and a half in Capri, and then the Italian government said the G7's coming in, so everybody has to leave. So we kind of got thrown out of Capri and shot the rest in Rome. We were building our interiors at Cinecittà. If any Fellini fans, I finally got to live my dream and shoot at Cinecittà.
I was going to say, if you're not familiar with that studio, it is ultra famous in Rome. The history in that studio is ridiculous.
Yeah, all Fellini's movies were made there. But I would, in the morning, I was living in Rome, and I would take my morning walk all the time, and I'd walk past the Trevi Fountain, and we were in prep, and I was like, why am I not putting Blake Lively in the Trevi Fountain? And so just got hung up on this idea. And so we wrote that last scene, and I was so hell-bent on she's going to be walking through that fountain like Anita Ekberg in La Dolce Vita. And so tell our Italian locations people, they're like, no, you cannot possibly do that. It cannot happen. And I'm like, why not? Everything, you can get anything done in the movie business, right? And so then other Italians were saying like, oh, there's a word. I can't remember the word, but there's some word that basically means he who follows the rules, and it's an insult. Meaning basically like, yeah, you want to do it, just do it and screw them. So I was like, we're going to do it. And you can't believe how this almost international incident was starting to get like it was going to happen, where we're getting warnings, the police, if you do this, you're going to be thrown out of Italy, you will be banned from Italy forever. And then the other people are going like, just go do it. And so it was the last thing we shot was that night. And we get to the set, and there's cops everywhere. And so that's why she's sitting on the edge of the fountain and not in it. But it's fine. I actually think it works better. It would have been real clunky for her to walk through the water.
I was actually wondering how you got that shot, because there's nobody in the frame outside the fountain. So how did you do that?
You got to shoot from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And if you anywhere the camera is, there's a lot of people behind it. And I'm going to shout out to this. There's this young couple who were just haunting around the entire time, and we were like, oh, they must be really fans of us. Blah blah blah. So we finally wrap. They go right to the edge of the fountain, and he proposes to her. They waited for all that time so he could propose in front of the Trevi Fountain, and we were so like Blake went over to them and congratulated them, and it was very sweet.
I'm almost out of time. I just have 2 more things.
Yeah.
If you get to make another sequel, will it be called Even More Simple Favors or Another Simple Favor, Electric Boogaloo?
Oh, if only that. I think it'll be, oh no, not Another Simple Favor, I think.
So the last thing I wanted to touch on is you have filmed another movie, which comes out at the end of this year. Please tell people the cast, because it's fucking crazy, and also what it's about, title, what it's about, the whole thing.
It's called The Housemaid. It's been a book that's been on the bestseller list for a year and a half. Thriller, straight up thriller, this one. It's Sydney Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, Brandon Sklenar, and Michaela Maroney from this movie. And it's pretty awesome. I gotta say, I'm really excited about it. We shot it in New Jersey in the first 2 months of the year, and I'm just in the middle of editing and very happy with it.
You should tell people what it's about.
It's about a young woman who shows up at these rich people's house to get a job as a housemaid and gets hired.
That is Sydney.
Yeah, that is Sydney. Exactly. Amanda's the wife, and gets hired, and it seems really normal, and everything goes spinning off the rails, and it's really it's a really good book. It's a really fun book to adapt.
And that comes out at Christmas?
Yes, comes out Christmas Day.
Yeah,
a thrilling Christmas. No, thank you.
I'll just say I saw footage at CinemaCon, and it looked fantastic. The crowd definitely was into it. I know it's a little early because you're in post-production on your film, but what are you? I think I just read you got a deal, or you made a new deal at Warner Brothers, or signed a first look deal.
Yeah, we have a first look. We signed a first look movie deal at Lionsgate, and we just signed a first look TV deal at Warner Brothers.
Yeah. So what do you have coming up that you can tease fans?
Nothing that I can tease. The Housemaid. We're just, we're in heavy development on like 3 different projects that could go next. And they're all really various shades of crazy and kind of fun. So, look, my only goal in life is to just entertain people. I'm not trying to win awards with anything, you know. I love making movies that hopefully make people have fun, you know. And then you can go through the fire with them and they can get dark whenever, but I always want my movies to be good-natured at the end of the day. So like the message at the end is like, sure, you can win. Like I don't like to have a nihilistic, you know, down ending. I just want people to have fun. I want my movies to be kind of a party that gets fun and then gets dark and then people get in a fight and maybe somebody dies, but it's okay because they catch the killer and everybody's happy again, right?
I just realized, and I apologize if people are going to kill me. I do have one more question. So one of the best seasons of TV in history is Freaks and Geeks, which, and I'm just curious, when the box set came out and everyone was sort of clamoring about it, like, was there ever any discussion of doing, and I'm just curious as a fan, was there ever any discussion of doing like a 2-hour movie or some sort of thing for closure? Or were you guys sort of like, this TV season is perfect, I don't want to mess with it?
Yeah, I mean, people bring it up for 25 years, people have tried to get us to do a reunion movie or you know, bring it back. And I'm just like, we got away with that one. You know, I mean, we worked our asses off on that. And what people always kind of go, oh, don't you wish you had closure on it? To me, I go like, it's perfect. I'm so happy with that last episode that I wrote and directed, which was nice to get to do. It just puts everybody in a different place, which that was, to me, was my high school experience. Like, you'd go away to summer vacation and come back and like your friend who was a nerd, he's a burnout. And, you know, now somebody's a jock who used to be, you know, something else. And, you know, the only TV show that ever had a complete ending was 6 Feet Under. Because the last episode, they showed you how everybody died. And you go, that's the only time that life stops is when you die, because characters just keep evolving and stories keep evolving. And so there is no real ending to something.
Yeah, by the way, if you have not seen Freaks and Geeks, for the love of God, watch. It is just phenomenal. And on that note, I want to say a huge thank you again to Amazon MGM for letting us do this screening. If you enjoyed the movie, there is a whole bunch of hashtags on this screen. Please say that, you know, what you thought. Just don't spoil it, because it doesn't come out for a week.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you, Paul, for doing this.
Thank you, Stephen. It's my dream come true to do this, and thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you. For real.